This is the four responses to the gospel training module. So let me jump over to my document camera and we'll get started. All right. The first thing you want to do is you want to have them have a blank sheet of paper and you want them to turn it landscape style. And then right at the top, you're going to write four, you guys can see this, four responses to the gospel. There we go. Well, I hope that there you go. There you go. All right. And then you want to write Acts chapter 17, verse 32 through 34. And this is the first break. What you're going to do is you're going to ask them to read this with their training buddy. So this is, I'm going to just put a line right here. All right. This is the first break. All right. Break one. So they will read this with their buddy, Acts chapter 17, verses 13 through 34, and have them look for the three responses of the gospel. I know it says four, but look at the different responses of the gospel. All right. As they're reading that and they're discussing that, what you're going to do underneath that, as they're doing that, you're going to draw a old timey way traffic light used to be with right there, right there, right there. And then you're going to put their response over here. Okay. All right. Good deal. So as they are doing that, you are writing this on the board. Great. As they come back, now they come back. Hey, that should get great, guys. What? So you ask them, hey, what are some of the responses you guys saw to Paul sharing the gospel at the Areopagus? Yeah, yeah. Some sneered or mocked, depending on your translation. So we're going to call that a red light. Very simple. You can see that. The next one was some of them said they were interested. They would like to hear more. Yeah, that's an easy one. We're going to call that a yellow light, right? And then we some followed in obedience. They wanted to, they believed. I think we actually get many prominent women, and we get two names: Darius, and Dionysius. So we're going to call that a green light. Now, there's four responses, and we'll get to that in just a moment. So let's just take a moment and kind of define these responses a little bit more. So red light, we're just going to simply say it's someone who says no. No to you, no to prayer, no, I don't want to hear more, no to an invite, no, just no. They're not interested, and it can come in a million different ways or formats. Not a good time, whatever, just a no. We're going to call them a red light at that point. And then we have a yellow light, and that's someone who's a maybe. And what I mean by that is they, you know what, I'd like to hear more. I'm interested. You know what? You've said a lot. Can I research it? So it comes in, like I said, a million different shades, but it's a maybe. And then lastly, we have a green light, and that's what someone says yes uh, to the gospel, that they believe, not just yes to you, but they believe, they repent, and they want to begin to surrender and follow Jesus, right? And so that's just a very low hanging fruit. Okay. And then the fourth response, which is not in this passage, but you're going to run into in the harvest as we go out, is I'm a believer. And I'm going to just add a little bit to this one. I'm a believer that actually is in a Bible study. And I say that because one of the things that we've run into just on a massive level is there's a lot of people that will say, I'm a believer. But when we drill down, there's no church, no discipleship, very, very little. I actually put that person in a yellow light, but that's for a later discussion. So now what I want you to do with your buddy is I want you to break at this point. All right. So this is the second break. And I want you to explain to your buddy the red light, yellow light, green light, and their response to the gospel. Just quickly go through that with your buddy, and when you're done, just kind of look up here, and we'll take the next step. All right. So as they're doing that, what you want to do, this is real simple. You want to put over here our response. Okay. Again, this is going to take a minute or two. Just look around the room. And then once you're done with that, I'd encourage you to walk the room once you write that up. Just kind of hear what they're saying. Are they training versus teaching? And so you can kind of catch some of that. All right, we come back. So, what is our response to these different responses to the gospel? Well, the first one, the red light, when we run into people in the harvest, our posture is to move on. It's not to argue or get into some long debate. Some red lights will do that for you. Now, if it's a friend or a family member, we obviously don't move on from them because we have an ongoing relationship. We continue to pray for them and hope at the right time something in their life will draw them to the Lord and they'll be able to be approachable at that point. But in the harvest, we just move on. And the reason we move on and don't spar with them for a long time is because a lot of times red lights will keep us from getting to yellow and green lights. So we have lots of stories where we had red lights that would go on for hours, but we really want to find these two people. So when we get to a yellow light, and again, they come in all different shapes and sizes. What we want to do is we want to invite them. I'm going to put that up here. Invite them to a discovery Bible study. Okay. And that can be done one-on-one or in a group. And we use what's called 7 stories of hope. Okay. Now, that falls outside the scope of our training today, but that's what we do in the follow-up training to this training. So we want to invite that person. Hey, would you like to meet one-on-one? Or I actually have a group that we're a part of that you can come and we're doing discovery. We're just learning to read the Bible and other things. And so we use these 7 stories of hope. And again, that's another follow-up training. So we run into a green light, someone who believes, repents, and follows. What we do for the most part is we begin to train. Let me put this little thing there. We begin to train that person in 2 things. One, the 411. That's the first thing we want to hit them with. And then secondly, we do what's called the commands of Christ. Okay, we begin to teach them how to obey. And that's what it says in the Great Commission, teach them to obey everything I've commanded. And so there's actually 7 commands of Christ. All right, so that's what we do with the green light. Just give them some big general categories. Now, what do I do with a believer? Says, yeah, I'm a believer. I'm in Bible study. Well, you know what I do? I do the same thing I do with a green light because I want to train them because most believers have never been, they're kind of an unused workforce. They've never been trained. So, you know what I do? I want to show them the 411 and I want to show them the commands of Christ. And again, both of these fall outside the scope of a Saturday training, but that's why we have follow-up groups to show you all this. Okay, so that's going to be where the third break is, right there. After this, right here, is our third break. Okay. Break 3. And what you want them to do at this point is you want to turn to your buddy and explain to them. When we come to a red light, we move on. We don't want to hang out with those people real long because we were looking for yellow and green lights. The yellow light, we invite them into a discovery Bible study, either one-on-one or in a group. And we have 7 stories, let's be stories of hope. We run into a green light. We want to train them in the 411 very quickly. And we want to get to the commands of Christ. And with a new believer, or I'm sorry, with an existing believer, we want to do the same thing. Train a 411 and give them the command of Christ. And then that's where we break. All right. Perfect. Do that with your buddy. All right. That is the 4 responses to the gospel. And if you have any questions, just let me know.